In 1962, the casting of Sue Lyon for the role of Dolores Lolita Hayes in Stanley Kubrick's adaptation was pivotal. The selection process was intensive, as Kubrick sought an actress who could embody the complexity of Lolita while adhering to stringent censorship laws of the time. Lyon's portrayal brought a nuanced innocence and allure to the character, which played a significant role in navigating around these restrictions. Her performance not only captivated audiences but also placated censors, who were wary of the controversial subject matter. The film strategically focuses on Humbert's obsession rather than explicit details, thereby sidestepping potential bans and objections from conservative viewers. This subtlety in storytelling and Lyon's convincing performance allowed this classic to explore its themes within acceptable societal standards then. Furthermore, her ability to convey depth with minimal dialogue highlighted her significant acting prowess, which added layers to what might have been a straightforward adaptation. Moreover, by focusing on aesthetic elements and emotional undercurrents rather than overt sexuality, Kubrick and his team crafted a film that pushed boundaries without overstepping them, thanks largely to Lyon's compelling depiction of Lolita. James Mason was the very first choice for Stanley Kubrick and the producer for the role of Humbert, but he initially declined this role due to a Broadway engagement. He recommended his daughter Portland for the role of Lolita. Laurence Olivier was offered the part, but refused it on the advice of his agent. Kubrick also considered Peter Ustinov, but decided against him. David Niven was then suggested, and he accepted the part, but withdrew for fear that the sponsors of his TV show Four Star Playhouse would object to him taking this role on. Eventually, James Mason withdrew from the play he was involved in, and got this part. In the 1962 adaptation of Vladimir Nabokov's novel, directed by Stanley Kubrick, Peter Sellers portrays Claire Quilty with a significantly expanded presence compared to the original text. Kubrick, known for his meticulous and innovative filmmaking style, allowed Sellers considerable creative freedom in his portrayal. This included improvising much of his dialogue and adopting various disguises throughout the film. Early in this classic, Quilty is introduced as a conceited playwright, exuding an air of superiority. This initial appearance sets a complex tone for his character, who consistently intrudes into the life of Humbert and Lolita. As the story progresses, Quilty's adaptability is showcased through several cleverly executed disguises. He next appears as an inquisitive policeman questioning Humbert on the porch of a hotel, where he subtly probes into their travel plans. The transformation continues as Quilty adopts yet another persona, this time as Dr. Zempf, an intrusive psychologist at Beardsley High School where Lolita attends. In this guise, he manipulates Humbert into considering more liberal after-school freedoms for Lolita under the guise of school policy advice. Later on in Lolita, during one pivotal scene set backstage at a school play that Lolita participates in, Quilty surfaces again disguised as a photographer capturing moments from the event, while maintaining close proximity to Lolita without raising suspicions about his true identity. Towards the climax of Lolita, Quilty makes one final deceptive maneuver through an anonymous phone call, pretending to conduct a survey. However, it becomes clear that his questions are pointedly directed towards further unsettling Humbert's life and understanding their whereabouts. Throughout each appearance by Sellers' character in Lolita, these strategic impersonations not only contribute to escalating tension, but also serve to foreshadow significant plot developments involving him and lead characters. Kubrick's decision to expand Claire Quilty's role allows for deeper exploration into themes such as obsession and manipulation, which are central to Lolita. The multiple personas adopted by Sellers also infuse dark humor into otherwise disturbing scenarios, highlighting Kubrick's skillful blending of genre elements within this adaptation. In the 1962 classic directed by Stanley Kubrick, Peter Sellers delivered an unforgettable performance as Claire Quilty, largely due to his unique approach to voice modeling. Sellers ingeniously chose to mimic the voice and intonation of Kubrick himself for his character. This choice added a layer of complexity and an intriguing meta-narrative element to the film, enhancing the psychological depth of both his performance and the movie as a whole. During filming, Kubrick employed a distinctive technique specifically tailored to harness Sellers' spontaneous genius. Aware of Sellers' capacity for inspired ad-libbing, which could yield unpredictable but potentially brilliant results, Kubrick made sure that no moment of potential magic was lost. To capture these moments from every conceivable angle without interrupting their spontaneity, He used 2 or 3 cameras simultaneously on set whenever Sellers was involved in a scene. This method not only allowed multiple perspectives to be filmed in one take, but also ensured that each impromptu gem from Sellers was captured in its entirety before it could dissipate. The use of multiple cameras helped preserve the immediate freshness and authenticity of Sellers' performance, which might have been diluted through repeated takes. Such filming techniques underscored Kubrick's meticulousness and adaptability as a director, qualities that were pivotal in realizing this complex narrative with such memorable impact. By integrating Sellers' dynamic improvisational skills into this carefully orchestrated multi-camera setup, Kubrick managed not only to maintain, but elevate the film's dramatic tension and dark comedic undertones throughout its runtime. One of the most enduring images associated with the 1962 film Lolita is that of Lolita wearing heart-shaped glasses. This image has become iconic, widely recognized as a symbol of the movie's themes and its era. However, this representation is not actually drawn from the film's content, but rather from its marketing materials. In reality, during the movie, Lolita never wears heart-shaped glasses. Instead, she is seen wearing cat's eye sunglasses, which were quite fashionable at the time. The misconception likely stems from promotional strategies used to market the film. The heart-shaped glasses featured prominently in posters, and album covers for the soundtrack create a lasting visual impression that suggests they are a key element in the movie. This clever marketing tool helped establish a strong visual identity for Lolita that differs significantly from her portrayal in actual scenes. The use of these glasses in publicity material, but not in Lolita itself, might be viewed as an artistic choice by marketers to encapsulate complex themes using simple imagery, a technique commonly employed to attract audiences while maintaining an air of intrigue around a new release. Furthermore, this approach could have been designed to soften or stylize what was otherwise controversial subject matter for its time by introducing an element with whimsical or childlike connotations. Interestingly enough, this divergence between promotional iconography and actual film content has contributed to some confusion among viewers who remember seeing Lolita wear heart-shaped glasses, a testament to how powerful advertising can influence memory and perception. By contrasting what viewers expected to see based on promotional material against what was actually shown on screen provides insight into both filmmaking and marketing tactics during that era, highlighting how visual cues play into audience expectations and experiences. When the movie premiered in June of 1962 in New York, Sue Lyon was not allowed to attend the film. She was too young to see the film that she created. However, she was allowed to attend the London premiere at the Columbia Theatre in September of that same year. In the 1962 adaptation of Vladimir Nabokov's novel Lolita, there is a notable difference in how the title character is referred to by the other characters compared to the original literary work. In the movie, both Lolita's mother and her friends frequently use her nickname Lolita. This usage spreads across various characters throughout the film, making it seem as though Lolita is a commonly accepted nickname for Dolores Hayes within her social circle. Contrastingly, in Nabokov's novel, the nickname Lolita holds a much more private connotation. It is exclusively used by Humbert Humbert, who is both narrator and protagonist. To him, Lolita becomes an intimate term that symbolizes his peculiar obsession with Dolores. Meanwhile, Dolores' mother in the book does not call her Lolita at all. She uses Lo short for Dolores. This creates a sharp distinction between how Humbert views Dolores and how she is perceived by others around her. This difference in name usage between the film and novel underscores a shift in focus from an intensely personal narrative found in literature to a more publicly acknowledged perspective seen on screen. The movie externalizes what was internalized in Humbert's view within the book pages. His unique vision of Lolita becomes part of everyone's vocabulary about her. Consequently, this change dilutes some of Humbert's possessive intimacy towards Lolita's identity as perceived through his eyes alone. By expanding who uses this nickname and how it permeates through different relationships around Lolita, rather than confining it to Humbert's narrative lens alone, as seen in Nabokov's work, gives viewers of this classic an altered perception of character dynamics compared to readers of the book. The alteration also potentially shifts audience empathy and understanding concerning key relationships throughout this classic cinematic rendition versus its literary counterpart, where names play critical symbolic roles aligned closely with narratorial control and perspective shaping. During the casting process for the 1962 film Lolita, directed by Stanley Kubrick. An extensive search was conducted to find the perfect actress to portray the complex character of Lolita Hayes. The role was highly coveted, leading nearly 800 young girls to audition. Ultimately, Sue Lyon was chosen for her striking appearance and ability to convey both innocence and sophistication, key traits needed for this challenging role. Stanley Kubrick, known for his meticulous nature and exacting standards in filmmaking, faced a unique set of challenges during production. One significant source of anxiety for him stemmed from Lyon's offset activities. After daily shoots, she frequently engaged in horseback riding, an activity that deeply worried Kubrick. His primary concern was the potential risk of an accident that could injure Lyon's face or even jeopardize her ability to continue filming. Kubrick's fears were not unfounded, given that any serious injury to Lyon would have caused significant delays and potentially compromised the quality and continuity of this classic film. He went so far as to advise her on how to fall safely if she were ever thrown from a horse. Specifically, he suggested she should try to land on her back rather than on her face. This level of concern highlights not only Kubrick's commitment to preserving his vision for Lolita, but also reflects the immense pressures filmmakers often face while trying to balance artistic goals with practical realities on set. During the making of Lolita, the cinematographer Oswald Morris had a major falling out with the director Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick was furious when images from the film appeared in the newspaper during the shooting. He blamed Morris for this, as Morris was responsible for managing the rushes from each day's shoot, where he felt like the leak originated. It was later discovered, however, that a junior assistant at the film processing lab had sold them to the press. The cinematographer said Kubrick never apologized to him for this accusation, and he vowed to never work for the famous director again. Shelley Winters' role preparation in Lolita involved director Stanley Kubrick, suggesting she read the novel for a deeper understanding. This occurred while Winters was campaigning for future President John F. Kennedy. Kennedy noticed her reading the book and advised her to use a brown paper cover to hide the title, fearing it could harm his election chances. Winters, dedicated to her craft, immersed herself in her character, Charlotte, to deliver a compelling performance in the controversial and complex film adaptation. Lolita explores themes of obsession, manipulation, and the blurred lines between love and exploitation, making Winters' preparation all the more crucial for her portrayal. Peter Sellers' performance pretty much steals this classic. He's amazing in it, and James Mason knew this as the filming of the film was going on. He confided with his friends that had he known this prior to shooting the movie, he would have insisted on playing Quilty himself. In the 1962 adaptation of Nabokov's novel directed by Stanley Kubrick, a clever detail is introduced through the character named Vivian Darkbloom. This name serves as an anagram for Vladimir Nabokov, the original author of the story, which adds a layer of insider wit to the film. Kubrick often infused his adaptations with such nuances, creating a bridge between himself and the original authors in subtle yet impactful ways. Kubrick's decision to set this classic during the early 1960s, rather than sticking to its original 1940s backdrop from the novel, aligns it more closely with contemporary times of its release. This temporal shift not only makes Lolita more relatable to its initial audiences, but also allows for modern interpretations and settings that reflect newer societal norms and aesthetics prevalent at that time. The movie is laced with double entendres and humorous references that are both verbal and visual, crafting scenes that carry multiple layers of meaning. These elements contribute significantly to a viewing experience filled with depth and complexity. They engage viewers on various levels, much like watching a Hitchcock film where every detail might hold significance beyond its surface interpretation. By embedding these intellectual games within this classic's narrative structure, like using anagrams or shifting time periods, Kubrick enhances our engagement as we piece together these puzzles alongside following the plot. The film thus becomes not just a story about controversial relationships, but also about discovering hidden connections and meanings crafted by both Kubrick and Nabokov. In the film Lolita, there are several double entendres that add depth to the storyline. One such instance occurs when Hamburg's first scene at the office of Lolita's camp depicts him waiting with a tennis racket in his hand as nubile young girls move in and out of the room. In front of him is a stuffed beaver, a subtle yet suggestive detail. Notably, the camp itself is named Camp Climax, a choice that further emphasizes the underlying themes of the film. Additionally, we learn that Lolita's friend Mona has been attending the camp since she was just 10 years old, hinting at the complex relationships and experiences in the characters' lives. When the director of Lolita was casting for the film, Joey Heatherton was one of his initial choices for the lead role. Known for her youthful appearance and vivacity, Heatherton seemed a fitting candidate to portray the complex character of Dolores Hayes. However, this decision faced a significant hurdle when approached by Ray Heatherton, Joey's father. Concerned about the long-term implications such a controversial role might have on his daughter's career and public image, Ray declined the offer on her behalf. Ray Heatherton's fears stemmed from the provocative nature of Lolita and its themes revolving around an older man's obsession with a young girl. He worried that playing such a part would pigeonhole his daughter into similar roles in future projects, restricting her career development to being seen only as a promiscuous sex kitten. Ironically, despite his efforts to steer her clear from this path by rejecting this specific role in Lolita, Joey Heatherton eventually found herself typecast in similarly risque roles throughout her acting career. This situation highlights not only parental influence over early career decisions, but also how challenging it can be to navigate typecasting in Hollywood. The director had to move forward with another choice, while Joey continued on an acting path that seemed destined by earlier perceptions shaped partially outside of her control. Thus, even without participating in this classic film adaptation of Nabokov's novel, she couldn't entirely escape the very branding her father had hoped to avoid. Stanley Kubrick's decision to cast Sue Lyon in the role of Dolores Lolita Hayes was influenced heavily by her appearance on The Loretta Young Show. Lyon's performance there not only showcased her acting abilities, but also highlighted her physical maturity, which played a crucial role in Kubrick's casting choice. At the time, the director was under significant pressure due to concerns about censorship. The original novel by Vladimir Nabokov described Lolita as being just 12 years old, a detail that raised potential issues with film censors. Kubrick knew that adapting such a controversial book required careful handling, especially regarding the protagonist's age. By choosing an actress who appeared older and more mature, he aimed to soften the provocative nature of the story for cinematic audiences and censors alike. Sue Lyon looked and acted older than her actual age, which helped in portraying Lolita as being slightly older than she was in Nabokov's text, around 14 years old instead of 12. This adjustment was critical for Kubrick, who wanted to stay true to the essence of Nabokov's tale, while also navigating the stringent standards of movie censorship at that time. By casting Lyon, he found a balance between maintaining artistic integrity and adhering to social norms and regulations of cinema during that era. The choice proved successful, as it allowed this classic adaptation to explore complex themes without getting entangled excessively with censorship hurdles, thus reaching a broader audience effectively, while still sparking necessary conversations around its controversial subject matter. In the 1962 film LOLITA, censorship was a major concern due to the sensitive nature of the subject matter. Surprisingly, the issue that prompted the most debate was not the usual focus on censoring female anatomy. Instead, it was the age-related content that caused controversy and forced censors to reevaluate their approach. The movie delves into themes that challenge societal norms, leading to a unique situation where the portrayal of youth became the central point of contention. Despite the challenges faced, the film managed to navigate these censorship issues and find solutions that allowed it to be viewed by audiences while sparking important discussions about the complexities of human relationships and societal taboos. While Stanley Kubrick was in Spain directing the epic Spartacus, he began preparing for his adaptation of Nabokov's controversial novel, Lolita. This overlap of projects is cleverly referenced in the opening scene of the film, where Humbert encounters a drunken Claire Quilty. In a playful nod to Spartacus, when Humbert asks Quilty if he is indeed Quilty, Quilty humorously responds with, "No, I'm Spartacus. You come to free the slaves?" This exchange not only sets a tone of dark irony, but also subtly connects Kubrick's filmography. Despite being set in various locations across the United States, the entire movie was filmed in England. Kubrick's growing aversion to flying played a significant role in this decision. His fear became so overwhelming that, as his reputation as a visionary director grew, he insisted more adamantly on working close to his home base. Consequently, English countrysides and landscapes were transformed into American settings for this classic. To someone familiar with both environments, it might be apparent that what appears to be U.S. locales are actually British landscapes. This choice reflects how Kubrick managed logistical challenges while still capturing the essence of Vladimir Nabokov's narrative through visual storytelling and location stand-ins that mimic American suburbia and roadways. The ability to adapt filming locations creatively without compromising narrative integrity demonstrates Kubrick's directorial ingenuity and meticulous planning during production phases. In June of 1962, the film premiered in New York to a fairly good reception, despite very little advertising, relying mostly on word of mouth. This classic was extremely controversial due to its subject matter. Looking back at the movie, Kubrick, an amazing director known for his camera work, expressed that he probably wouldn't tackle such a challenging theme again. Lolita stands as a testament to Kubrick's skill and the provocative nature of the story he brought to life on